Marcus Bell stood frozen in his driveway, staring at his brand new car. Deep scratches ran across the hood like claw marks from an angry beast. The side mirror dangled by a single wire, swinging gently in the breeze. His chest tightened as he realized this was no accident or random vandalism. 3 children sprinted away laughing, skateboards tucked under their arms, sneakers slapping pavement. Behind them stood Karen Whitfield, arms crossed, smiling like nothing unusual had happened. "Boys will be boys," she said, her voice dripping with practiced condescension and smugness. Marcus felt his jaw clench, fists curling at his sides in disbelief. He had saved for 2 years to buy this car after his promotion. It represented more than transportation. It represented dignity after years of sacrifice. "Your kids just destroyed my property," Marcus said, struggling to keep his voice steady. Karen waved a dismissive hand, already turning to walk back toward her house. "File a complaint with the HOA if you think it matters," she replied coldly. Marcus blinked. And complete lack of accountability. He had moved into Maple Ridge Estates just 3 months earlier with his family. As one of the few black homeowners in the neighborhood, he had already felt scrutiny. Karen had personally inspected his lawn height twice within his first 2 weeks living there. She had sent him 3 notices about his mailbox color matching community standards. Meanwhile, received no warnings or citations whatsoever. Marcus swallowed his anger, walking toward his front door with shaking hands. His wife Denise met him at the entrance, eyes widening at his expression. "What happened?" she asked, already glancing past him toward the damaged vehicle outside. "Karen's kids trashed the car," Marcus said, voice trembling with barely contained fury. Denise gasped, with growing horror. "This is going to cost thousands," she whispered, running fingers over the scratched paint. Marcus nodded grimly, already pulling out his phone to document everything carefully. He photographed every scratch, every dent, plastic trim. A soft voice called from across the street, cutting through his rising panic. "I saw everything," said Mrs. Patterson. 3 houses down. She held up her phone, displaying a video of the children attacking his car. "I've been recording Karen's family for months. She terrorizes this whole neighborhood constantly," she explained. Marcus felt a flicker of hope cutting through his overwhelming frustration and despair. "Would you be willing to give a statement to the police?" he asked carefully. Mrs. Her eyes hardening with years of suppressed anger. "Someone needs to finally stop that woman before she ruins another family," she said. Marcus thanked her. Chaos. He dialed the local police department, his voice steady despite his racing heart. An officer arrived within 20 minutes, surveying the damage with practiced professional calm. Marcus explained the situation while Mrs. Patterson handed over her recorded footage immediately. The officer's expression shifted from neutral to genuinely concerned as he watched. "This is clear vandalism," the officer said, jotting notes onto his small pad. Karen reappeared on her porch, watching the scene with crossed arms and irritation. "This is ridiculous," she called out. "They're just children playing around the neighborhood." The officer turned toward her, his tone firming with quiet professional authority. "Ma'am, damage regardless of the age of the offender, he said. Karen's confident smile faltered slightly, replaced by a flicker of genuine concern. Marcus watched her carefully, sensing the first crack in her armor of entitlement. For the first time since moving here, he felt something shift in his favor. The officer asked to speak with Karen privately. Walking toward her front lawn, Marcus exchanged a glance with Denise, both wondering what would happen next. Mrs. Lee, offering quiet reassurance amid the tension. This neighborhood has needed someone brave enough to stand up to her, she said. Marcus nodded, settling firmly onto his shoulders. The officer returned 20 minutes later, his expression unreadable but his posture firm. I've documented the incident and will be filing a formal report tonight, he said. Karen stood rigid on her porch, watching the exchange with narrowed, calculating eyes. Marcus thanked the officer, his mind already racing toward what came next legally. Denise placed a comforting hand on his arm, sensing his growing internal storm. We need a lawyer, she said quietly. This goes beyond a simple repair bill. Marcus agreed. Deeper than mere property damage alone. That night, cases late into the early morning hours. He discovered dozens of similar stories from families targeted by overzealous board members. Many had been forced to sell their homes after relentless harassment campaigns. Marcus refused to let his family become another statistic in that grim pattern. The next morning, notice Karen had sent him. The HOA office complied reluctantly, clearly uncomfortable with his growing paper trail. Marcus discovered something startling buried within months of meticulous community correspondence records. Karen had sent him 11 violation notices in just 12 weeks of residency. His white neighbor across the street had received 0 notices for identical issues. Marcus felt a cold clarity settle over him as patterns became undeniably clear. He contacted a civil rights attorney named Patricia Reyes, known for fighting discrimination cases. Patricia reviewed his documentation, her eyebrows rising higher with every passing page. This isn't just vandalism, she said. This looks like a pattern of harassment. She explained that selective enforcement combined with the vandalism strengthened his potential lawsuit significantly. Marcus felt something he hadn't felt in weeks. A surge of genuine hope. Meanwhile, Patterson rallied other neighbors who had quietly suffered under Karen's tyranny. A retired veteran named Hank revealed Karen had cited him for his flagpole height. A young immigrant family shared how Karen mocked their accents during board meetings. Slowly, united by years of suppressed frustration and quiet anger, Patricia organized a community meeting, inviting residents to share their experiences openly. The turnout shocked everyone, filling the small community center beyond its normal capacity. One by one, of unfair treatment and intimidation. Karen sat near the back, her confident posture slowly crumbling under public scrutiny. Marcus watched her face shift from defiance to genuine alarm as testimonies accumulated. After the meeting, with the county housing authority, she also filed criminal charges against Karen's children for the deliberate vehicle vandalism. Karen received a summons demanding her presence at an upcoming juvenile court hearing. She stormed onto Marcus's porch that evening, her composure completely shattered with rage. You're destroying this community over a car, she hissed, eyes wild with desperation. Marcus stood his ground, refusing to shrink beneath her familiar intimidating presence. "You destroyed this community years before I ever moved in," he replied calmly. Karen's face reddened, her hands trembling with barely controlled fury and humiliation. "I'll make sure everyone knows what kind of family you really are," she threatened. Marcus felt a flash of anger but kept his voice level and controlled. "Threatening me now is just more evidence for my lawsuit," he said firmly. Karen opened her mouth to respond but found no words coming out. She turned and stormed back toward her house, slamming the door behind her. Denise emerged from inside, having heard the entire confrontation through the open window. "You handled that perfectly," she said, pulling him into a tight, reassuring embrace. Marcus exhaled slowly, feeling exhaustion and adrenaline mixing inside his racing heart. The legal battle had only just begun, but momentum was finally shifting their way. Patricia called the next morning with news that energized the entire neighborhood coalition. "The county is launching a full investigation into the HOA's discriminatory practices," she said. Marcus closed his eyes, allowing himself a brief moment of cautious, hopeful relief. 3 months later, Marcus sat in a crowded courtroom, heart pounding with anticipation. Patricia stood beside him, organizing files that represented months of relentless preparation. Karen sat across the room, flanked by her own increasingly nervous defense attorney. The judge entered. Expectant silence. The juvenile case proceeded first, with Karen's children found responsible for the vandalism. The judge ordered restitution and mandatory community service for all 3 involved children. Karen's face remained tight, her composure barely holding beneath visible public humiliation. Next came the civil lawsuit, where Patricia presented overwhelming evidence of selective enforcement. She displayed charts comparing violation notices issued to minority versus non-minority households. Witnesses, family, testified about years of targeted harassment. Mrs. The courtroom screen for everyone present. Karen's attorney attempted weak objections, but the evidence proved simply too overwhelming. Marcus took the stand, describing the fear and exhaustion of constant unfair scrutiny. "I just wanted a safe home for my family," he said, voice cracking slightly. The jury watched him intently, several members visibly moved by his testimony. Patricia closed her argument by demanding $80,000 in damages and accountability. The jury deliberated for only 2 hours before returning with their final verdict. "We find in favor of the plaintiff," the foreperson announced, voice ringing clearly. Marcus felt tears welling as relief and vindication crashed over him simultaneously. The court awarded him $80,000 for damages. Distress. Karen sat motionless, her face pale as the verdict settled around the courtroom. Outside the courthouse, reporters gathered, eager to cover the dramatic community story. Marcus stood before cameras, Denise holding his hand tightly beside him. "This was never just about a car," he said, looking directly into the lens. "This was about dignity, fairness, intimidation," he continued. Within weeks, and from her position permanently and unanimously. Other residents finally felt safe filing their own complaints against years of mistreatment. Karen's husband filed for divorce shortly after, citing the public humiliation as unbearable. She eventually sold her house and moved away. Friendless and thoroughly disgraced, Marcus used part of the settlement to repair his car completely. Better than before. He used the remaining funds to start a community fund for harassment victims. Mrs. Here. Finally able to speak without fear. Hank raised his flagpole proudly. No longer worried about unjust violation notices. The immigrant family hosted a celebration dinner, inviting the entire grateful neighborhood community. Marcus stood in his driveway months later, watching his children play near his repaired car. The scratches were gone, replaced by gleaming paint reflecting the warm evening sunlight. He thought about how close his family had come to being silently broken. Instead, freed an entire suffering community. Justice rarely arrived quickly, but it arrived when people refused surrender. Standing tall against abuse of power required courage, patience, nation. Marcus smiled, finally feeling at home in the neighborhood he had fought for. His story became a quiet reminder that no one stands above accountability forever. And somewhere, Karen learned that cruelty always eventually finds consequences.